What's happening, podcasters? My name is Sebastian Rusk, and I help marketers and entrepreneurs just like you launch successful podcasts. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what it takes to submit your podcasts to the Pandora platform. That's right, a lot of new distribution platforms are starting to open up for us podcasters, including those favorite streaming music sites like Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the process of being able to submit your podcast to Pandora as part of their new program where they're allowing just about anyone with a podcast to have their show on their platform. Used to be they would choose whether or not you could or could not. Times have changed since then, and they've opened it up to the public to assure that you have just one more place for your podcast to live. Remember, distribution is key, and distribution is extremely simple this day and age. You don't have to ask or beg to be distributed. You simply submit your show to the platform of your choice, and you've got the ability and instant credibility of having your show on these multi-million person platforms for people to find your show, your content, follow you, consume your content, etc., etc. So we're going to switch over to a screen share right now, and I'm going to walk you through the process. Let's get started. Okay, first thing you need here, actually you need two things in order to get your podcast on Pandora. First of all, you need a Pandora account. So you can go to the URL right up here, ampplaybook.com/podcast. That's Pandora's podcast website. The link will be available below in the comments as well. It's free to sign up for an account, but you do need one in order to do it. The second thing that you need is your RSS feed for your podcast. RSS feed looks just like this that you're seeing right here. The show that we're submitting today is my new show called The Roll Call Podcast. So I'm going to go ahead and log in here. And here we are. So I've already got the Seb Rush show in Pandora. That was the first one I put as soon as they announced that the submission was open to anyone. I went ahead and submitted my first podcast, which is the Seb Rush Show. Now I'm going to submit my second podcast, which is the Roll Call Podcast. We just launched that a few weeks back, 5 episodes in. Whoops. That's not the URL here. I'm glad that I made that mistake so I can show you that you need to go here. I'm just using Anchor as an example. Anchor is how we launched the site. I just go to settings, update settings. I scroll down here and I get the RSS feed. I copy it right here. I click next and Pandora automatically pulls all of the show data in from my RSS feed. That's the goal of having an RSS feed with your podcast host. So you never upload a podcast episode to iTunes or Google Podcast or to Pandora in this case. You always submit your RSS feed, and every time you upload something to your podcast hosting platform like Anchor, the distribution channels will pull the new data from that link. Don't want to get too complicated, but that's the long and short of how RSS feeds work. That's how I just logged into Pandora, copied and pasted my RSS feed from the show, pasted it into the submission process here, and they have all my info. So they've got some questions. If you scroll down here, it's a pod playback order. Is it episodic or is it serial? In this case, it's episodic. Freshness, is it evergreen or is it timely? Are you talking about sports and politics? It's probably timely. Are you talking about motivation and content that can help anybody for the next 200 years? It's probably evergreen. And do you say bad words or no bad words? Very, very important, but don't sweat it too much. If you cuss, that's okay. Just put mature audience. If you don't cuss and you're not really sure, just put PG. Is your show branded content? Do you have advertisers at this moment? No. How many downloads per episode? Well, if you go to Anchor, you're going to just click on episodes. We just started the show 5 episodes deep. And we've had a handful of people listen to the show. So the average play, I would say, is 2 people, right? And total downloads, well, we're looking at 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. All right, not bad. Just got started in the past 12 months. Podcast ad sales. Would you like Pandora to contact you about selling ads? Why not? And they're going to ask you a few more questions when you say yes. Do I currently have ads? No. No. If yes, who sells ads? Do you include markers for locations and ads? Yes, sure. If you don't, that's fine too. They want to know that they can put an ad in a specific spot, that it's going to play at a specific time in your show to a specific location. That's the purpose of a marker there. And then we've got your podcast social feeds. So there's no specific feed for the Roll Call podcast. So I'm just going to put my own personal Facebook information in here. And so on and so forth. As you see here, I'll put the Podcast Launch Lab. And Wikipedia we don't have. I'm going to click next. Oops. Do you include markers? No. At this point, I want to put no. All right. Congratulations. Your podcast has been submitted to Pandora. Please allow 4 to 6 weeks for the team to review your submission. So that's the submission process. It's hurry up and wait. It usually doesn't take 4 to 6 weeks. I don't remember how long it took us to get the first show in there. But if you go back and see, that's the one page here. If we click on my account here, it shows you that I have 1 approved and I've got 1 in review here. And the same thing will happen for you regardless of how many shows that you have in here. But you definitely need your RSS feed. If you're using Anchor, you can also get that on your dashboard where it shows all of your episodes. You click View Public Link, and then down here on the right, little RSS feed, copy RSS feed, same place to find it, or you go into your settings. If you're using SoundCloud, it's all under settings or preferences from wherever your podcast host is, or however the process is. They're all pretty general. They're available within the settings. They make it readily available. They know that you need the RSS feed in order to get the podcast distributed. A lot of podcast hosts, like the one we use, Pippa, will actually distribute for you to some location. So iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, YouTube, Spotify, those are a few that Pippa do. Same process for Anchor. They've got several more. So if you look here, it says more places to listen: Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, and then, of course, the RSS feed. So they help out tremendously. They allow you to monetize your show right out of the gate and help you out with distribution. Again, this episode, or this video rather, is not about which podcast host to choose, but they are kind of one and the same, because you need a good podcast host that's easy to navigate, where you can get information like your RSS feed when you're submitting it to other distribution channels. The goal is to get your show into as many distribution channels as possible. Well, I hope by now you really understand exactly what it takes to get your podcast on the Pandora platform. That was a step-by-step of how I actually submitted one of our shows to the Pandora platform. And now we're going to submit all of our shows here at the Podcast Launch Lab to the Pandora network, now that they are accepting shows from anyone. You have questions about Pandora, you got questions about podcast distribution, you got questions about exactly what you need to do of what I talked about in this video or other videos, feel free to go ahead and drop a comment below. I do respond to each and every one of you lovely individuals, and it is my pleasure to do so. We'll talk to you next time.